Would you all join us and rise and pledge the allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for January 16th, 2009, I believe. 19. So I'll open by offering the opportunity for public comments on the agenda items as presented.
Yeah, Cliff Cole, Shoecraft Road. You had mentioned at the last meeting that you were going to give us a report on meeting with the folks from Adelphi Pipe Company. You had told me that yourself.
Yeah.
That you were going to meet with them. I'm surprised to not see that on the agenda.
Yeah, and Greg, it was set up originally. Greg was a communicator with him, and he had spent a week and a half attempting to get them to respond. And we had a meeting with them back in late December, early January, and they said that they would meet with us sometime before the middle of January. The meeting we had with them, from my perspective, and I think the other members of the committee would agree, was not very informative. We learned a number of things. One most significant in my mind is in the process of discussing this, because we were supposed to be discussing fire protection, emergency, and so forth. And we did not spend much time on that. We did talk a little bit about it. However, we generated into other questions, and I asked them, do they have any other stations? And they said no. I said, have you ever built one? The answer was no. So with that, it created more of alert than we probably had in the past. We've been getting all kind of propaganda pieces, little bits and pieces from them, and some from FERC, but we still don't have a good definition of what this is. We've been trying to get to some of the other stations that do exist, and I think there's there's over 1,000 of them in the U.S., and we've not been successful in accomplishing that. Talked about it, tried to plan something, and it has not worked. So it's still quite secretive. We have been discussing and trying to look at developing an ordinance. We haven't legally developed how that could be effective and affect this particular activity. They've been pretty adamant in kind of casual words that they're not going to comply with our ordinances. And that's an issue we have to deal with legally.
Well, can there be a legal challenge to this? Isn't that
there can.
The job of this
there can.
council?
And we have to assess what all that involves. Yes, Jenny?
To answer the question specifically, can there be a legal challenge? As we've said at many meetings, we've attained party status. We get copies of all the documents. We provide feedback frequently. At the end of the day, we don't make the decision, and we don't have the ability to appeal the decision unless we can show that they have violated a federal regulation, and at this point, not complying with our ordinances is not a requirement of the federal regulations.
Well, can't that be challenged? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all to me.
I'm sorry, what?
That doesn't. Why can't that alone be challenged? That we have no ability to challenge. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. You say that we have no right to challenge that they can overtake our ordinance. I can't believe that there can't be a way to legally challenge this in some way.
You asked a whole lot of questions in there, and so I'm hesitating because I'm trying to decide which one to answer. And do we want to? This is not public comment on a confirmed appointment. Do you want to continue with this now, or do you want to wait till later in the meeting? It's up to you.
I think we should wait, but please, we understand everybody's concern. And I urge everybody, take a pen and pencil and write to the governor, write to the representatives.
Well, I've talked,
You
I
have.
have.
Yeah, okay, so everybody,
Yeah.
not everybody has joined in on your program.
There's nothing more effective in a situation like this than communication from state and federal elected officials. When the state is doing a project, the law states that they have to file our ordinances. When the federal government is doing a project, they are the sovereign and they do not follow our local ordinances. I don't know what to tell you other than that, but as we said, this is probably more appropriate under public comment at the end of the meeting, not on agenda items.
Okay, well, I apologize. I thought that there was an agenda item from the last meeting where this was discussed.
What's your name again, sir?
Cliff Cole.
Thank you.
I can assure you, it's very frustrating. We have some very good qualified technical people in this small committee, and they're, I think, equally justified in not being able to get any indication. We've asked them time and time again for the plans. What does this thing look like? And in the process of discussion, I asked him, what's the cost of this plan? How much is it going to cost you to build it? And you're going to build it on an acre and a half. So in there lies things that don't agree. They said $200 million. Now, whether that's accurate or not, but that's what they said. And there are people in this room who could confirm that, who were in that meeting. We had fire company members, we had art committee, Greg was there, and we had an hour and a half meeting, and actually from my perspective, we didn't get anywhere. But we did, we learned it. They've never had one before, never ran one before. And that's a very scary picture for me. And
Agreed.
so it's like giving your 12-year-old son to use their car. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Pamela West. Who's holding them accountable for the off-gassing of the methane and the noise levels that they have said they're going to be within certain levels on both of those counts? And who's going to be monitoring them? And how's that going to be, how are they going to be held accountable if they go over those
Thank you for your
prescribed
questions.
limits?
And they're the same questions you were asking them, and we're not getting any answers. Now they keep saying they're at a meeting with us, and I don't know if you're any news the last couple of days, whatever.
Those were some of the questions I asked in the public meeting that we had down at the elementary school, and actually that's
Yes.
gotten incorporated into the letter that we sent to DEP. Was it? Yes. So we haven't heard anything back on that matter yet. So we have asked those questions, but we're not getting answers.
So isn't their obscurity a legal problem?
Well, my perspective on it is that they're hiding under the umbrella of FERC.
Right.
And FERC is part of the federal government. Part of the federal government is the utilization of the resources that Pennsylvania has in the form of natural gas. And when it all comes down to it, it's about money and control and power. And they will not admit it. But it's my view that that pipeline and that kind of investment is going further than Philadelphia to supply a couple of companies. It's headed for Europe, in my opinion, because they're going to use that as a counter to the issues they're having with Germany and the oil pipeline that Russia is pumping into Germany. They won't admit that. That's a different subject at a different level. But that's my view as the timing. I've been in all the places, so seen them work. It's very frustrating. Most frustrating thing is we don't have any answers to give you. We don't have any answers ourselves. We have some little bits and pieces, but they are programmed to divert.
Right.
And I would say, would you agree, Greg, that that's what we had at that meeting, at the diversion?
I would say it was very uninformative.
Same thing. Yes, sir. So unfortunately, we continue the battle, and we think maybe we're going to be lucky enough to get a meeting scheduled with them. The people that we met with they were nice people, very enjoyable and good conversation, but they're not relating any details. They did get a young engineer, say that because of the sound of his voice, and they talked a little bit about some of the pieces, and he's the one that knew what the approximate cost of the station was. They didn't have any idea, and they're supposed to be the representatives of this company to the public. They will talk to anybody individually. They will not talk to a group of public. What the DEP did, they did from the DEP at that meeting. In fact, I heard feedback that the day of the meeting, DEP called and wanted to cancel it. So that's where we are. Long story. Hang with us, we're
So
fighting for it.
we live a mile from the site, and we never got any notice from Adelphi or anything that this was going on.
I had one last comment. I had a brief conversation with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's working on putting together a meeting to come to this area and have a discussion on this subject. Because he and Craig Stats have both written letters together, one letter, denying and urging it to be replaced and located someplace else.
We'll keep going.
Yeah. We don't know the timing. It's sometime between now and the end of January and early February. So, okay, we need to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello?
Announcements, we will have an executive session following this evening's meeting on some real estate and personnel matters. On the consent agenda, they're all listed on the program. Does anyone have any specific questions about those items, board or opposed?
I do not either.
Okay.
Make a motion for approval.
A second.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Comprehensive plan. This evening we're going to present the comprehensive plan which has been created over the last year and a half by a group of 5 people and 1 resident, and working with people on Bucks County Planning Commission. Mike Rodick, who some of you may remember, he worked with us on the initial one we did back in 2005.
2005, yeah.
And so I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and I think he's going to give you an overview of it. We will, because it was scheduled earlier, we had to delay it into 2019. We're probably going to put it out for advertiser and then final approval in February.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, so I'm going to hand out a draft to just sort of pass around. It's going to say 2018 on it. Obviously, the draft came out in 2018, but now we're in 2019. I think it's going to be the 2019 comprehensive plan. I'm just going to pass this around. Anybody wants to take a quick look at it. If you want further details on the comprehensive plan, you want to really read into it. It is available on the township website. You can peruse it at your leisure there. Please take a look, and hopefully you get a little bit better idea of what the township has planned for the coming years. Judy, can you move the slide?
Do you want to work this yourself now?
That's okay. So I guess the first question we want to ask ourselves is, what is a comprehensive plan? A comprehensive plan is a municipality's main policy document that details the collective vision for the future, the historic, environmental, cultural resources, cultural facilities it seeks to protect, and the steps necessary to achieve this vision. Comprehensive plans aid officials in land use planning and decision making. As Don had mentioned, back in 2005, the township did a comprehensive plan. This is intended as an update to that comprehensive plan. The municipality's planning code requires municipalities to update their comprehensive plans every 10 years, and so this update of the comprehensive plan is designed to make sure that they're in keeping, the township's in keeping with that MPC requirement. And you can move to the next one. So one of the most important things about a comprehensive plan is establishing a community vision. That vision is designed to set out a future ideal for the township to achieve in terms of what it wants to see the township look like in the future, and sort of the overall policies, the overall policy direction that it would like to go into. The community vision that we established was based on the information, the background information collected in the comprehensive plan, the discussion of the comprehensive plan group, and the results of the survey that we sent out to every family in the township. So this community vision is generally divided amongst those plan elements that you would see in the comprehensive plan. So we have our natural resource vision, our agriculture vision, housing, non-residential development and economic characteristics, community facilities and services, parks and recreation, farmland and open space, historical and cultural resources, transportation and circulation, water and sewer, future land use and growth management. Really, that's kind of like the critical chapter, that sort of ideal or that vision for land use that the township would like to achieve in the future. And then we also have a sustainability element. So those are the elements of the comprehensive plan and that collective vision. So I just talked about the survey a little bit. One of the most important parts of this comprehensive plan was that survey was sent out to every single family in West Rockhill Township. We sent out 2,100 surveys. Over 750 were completed and returned. It's a very good return rate. The survey included multiple choice questions, rating scale questions, and also allowed space for public comments or comments. The purpose of the questions was to gauge the general feelings about the township and its future. Yeah, Judy. This is just sort of two of the questions that we asked in the survey, and I specifically wanted to focus in on that question number 3, where you live in the township. What we thought it might be interesting to do is sort of divide the township into 3 different areas, and obviously collect our survey questions from those 3 different areas, and to see if there was any differences amongst the opinions of people who live in various areas of the township. And what we found was generally people agreed on almost all the questions. There really was no variation in the way they answered questions depending upon where they lived in the township. So we found that to be pretty interesting. This is just sort of an example of one of the questions that was asked in that survey. It asked what characteristics of West Rockhill are most important to protect. And as you can imagine, most people chose answers like scenic beauty, low crime, and public safety. Also, small town character and low taxes. So I can imagine all of you are sitting here thinking, yeah, those are generally that's generally the way I would have answered that question as well. All right, community background. One of the things a comprehensive plan tries to do is collect information about the community that the plan is trying to develop a future vision for. So it's real important that you look at things like demographics, you look at the natural resources, non-residential development or economic development, transportation, infrastructure issues. You want to look at all those background issues, and you want to develop a plan for those different elements. And that also helps you get that sort of overall vision for how you see your community developing in the future. All right, Judy. So one of the first chapters that we have in the plan is on demographics. Generally, it paints a picture of an older working class community. The township's population housing totals reflects its status as a rural community. Okay. If you look at, this is just sort of a comparison between West Rockhill Township and Bucks County. You look at the median age, this is all back in, this is from the 2010 census. The median age for West Rockhill Township is 47.5 years old, whereas for Bucks County as a whole, it's 43 years. Looking at average household size, 2.38 people per household versus 2.63. Median household income, $66,000 for yearly household income versus $79,000. And then for bachelor's degree, you look at among people among residents who are 25 years and older, the percentage of people who earn a bachelor's degree or higher, 26.5% versus 38% for Bucks County as a whole. So these are three statistics that you can just sort of look at this township profile and say, yeah, that generally points the picture, or paints a picture, I should say, of an older community that is probably a little bit more working class, and because generally older folks have their children have left their house, so you're going to have lower, so they're going to be older, they're going to bring up that median age, it's going to be a smaller household, and their income isn't going to be as high. Another plan element is land use. Land use is just basically the use for which, what land is used for. And this is a map that you're going to see in the comprehensive plan. It's sort of, you can see sort of that patchwork there. It's kind of hard to see with all those various colors, but you can see where development is generally concentrated, sort of in that south portion of the township, where you see those sort of reds and purples down there along State Road. And you can also see smaller parcels down there. So our reds and purples, our reds are commercial land use, our purple is industrial land use, our yellows are single-family residential land use. Green is parks and recreation, as you might imagine. That light purple is vacant land, and blue is government institutional land use. So it just gives you sort of a general picture of how land is used in the township. Another important plan element is natural resources. This plan identifies the various natural resources that are in the township. This particular map shows the watersheds of the township. There are three main watersheds: Unami Creek to Hicken Creek, and the East Branch Perkiomen watersheds. These are our three main watersheds. So generally, what a watershed is most of you probably know, is how water drains through an area. And these are certainly important planning units when it comes to looking at the natural resources of any community. The chapter also looks at things like woodlands and steep slopes. It looks at floodplains. It looks at streams. It looks at topography and geology. All those basic natural resource units that make up the natural resources of West Rockhill Township. The chapter also talks a lot about the various ordinances that protect these natural resources in the township, and looks at issues like invasive species as well. Historic and scenic resources. Historic and scenic resources are really important to the identity of West Rockhill Township. You can see a number of readily identifiable historic resources. I think that's one of the twin churches up there. That's the Camp Hill Meeting House, or Highland Park. That's it. Highland Park historic resource. And that, right below that is the Zimba property, I believe, with the historic home there. So the township has a number of historic resources that are really important to its identity. A number of years ago, actually it wasn't too long ago, maybe back in 2010, I want to say, the Heritage Conservancy conducted a historic resource survey of the township, and they found over 285 historic resources that were of value in the township. And among those resources, I think they found over, I want to say like 56 or something like that, of those resources were what they called a priority number 1 resource, most deserving of protection. And some of those resources they felt were eligible for preservation on the National Register, or listing on the National Register. Another important resource, the identity of West Rockhill Township, is open space and agricultural resources. This map here shows all the various types of preserved properties in West Rockhill Township. I know it's kind of difficult to read, but some of these resources are parks, some are preserved farmland, some are state game lands, some I think are Act 319 properties, and some are like ag security areas. But it shows you the wealth and diversity of open space and park and recreational resources that the township has, and it's something obviously that residents do value. This is a trail and greenway plan that came out of the 2010 Park and Recreation and Trails plan. This is really, I think, conceptual at this point, but I think this is something that the township is really looking to implement in future years. The county, I know, has a number of initiatives to develop trails throughout Bucks County, connecting various municipalities, and other municipalities have engaged in their own trail development program. And I think that I know that the township would like to start to implement this particular program to connect those many open space resources that we just talked about through trails, through off-road or on-road connections, and through greenways. And this would allow people to take advantage of those open space resources that are throughout the township, and also provide them with an opportunity for recreation, an opportunity to make those connections without actually having or walking along those connections or biking along those connections without having to be on the road. Transportation and circulation, another really important plan element. Transportation transportation infrastructure is vitally important for the ability for people to get to jobs, to get to housing, and for the movement of goods and services. It has a big effect on the environment, has a big effect on the economy, and it has a big effect on people's quality of life. This is a chapter where we had a number of recommendations to improve that circulation, improve that movement of people and the movement of goods. But at the same time, we want to protect that rural character that residents so value in West Rockhill Township. All right, future land use and implementation. So a future land use is really what your land use policy is for the coming years. It's how you see the township or your community developing and growing. We had 3 basic land use categories. There in the green are areas that we want to protect. Those areas out that are away from infrastructure, areas along the East Branch, Perkiomen Creek. We want to protect these areas. These are our critical resource areas. So we want to encourage uses that are more in keeping with that rural environment, open space uses, low density residential development. Areas in brown are areas where we have infrastructure, and we kind of see the township growing and developing, providing for higher density residential uses, providing for commercial development, industrial development, providing those job opportunities, those economic opportunities. And that blue area, is our rural holding area. This is areas that could potentially, the township could potentially expand that infrastructure into in the coming years, should there be a need for it. And that's just kind of we call it a rural holding area. It's should that growth explode in the township, that's the areas that we want to concentrate development. Right now, I don't think, given recent population trends, I can't anticipate that, just because growth has been generally pretty low here in the township and in Bucks County in general. But at the same time, the township wants to show that they are planning for this to make sure that they are in keeping with applicable case law. Okay, go ahead. All right, so back in 2005, we we had a number of recommendations to improve the township's growth management and improve the I should say, not improve the growth management, to address its growth management issues and address some of the issues that were outstanding with the existing plans and ordinances that it had. So we laid out a number of recommendations, and we took, the township in the intervening years has taken actions to improve or to update those ordinances and plans. So since 2005, the township has developed a new zoning ordinance, a new subdivision and land development ordinance, new Act 537 plan, that's your sewage facilities plan, an on-lot disposal system management program, a new stormwater management ordinance, a park and recreation and open space plan. There's been over 2,000 acres of preserved open space that the township has achieved. They also developed a village master plan for Almont, which was not adopted, but still contains a number of recommendations that we think are still could be implemented here in the village. And then also there was also a historic resources survey report. So we kind of want to. We were so successful with that last comprehensive plan. We kind of thought, well, why break something that, why try to fix something that isn't broke? So we decided to do something similar to what we did in that original comprehensive plan, and that's come up with a list of plan actions. So in the beginning of the comprehensive plan, we have a plan summary, which just basically just really briefly summarizes the contents of the comprehensive plan, but also includes a list of activities that are most critical to the plan's success. So each of the activities is summarized and is listed with a general timeline and completion for completion and whether or not the activity has been completed or implemented. And in this checklist, we kind of see as a really important tool to make sure that the things that we put forward in this comprehensive plan are actually implemented in the coming years. So literally, you can just take that, make a copy of that checklist right out of the comprehensive plan, and you can go right down the checklist. What do we want to do next? What do we want to do next? And you can check off your progress. It's terribly simple, but it was really successful in that last comprehensive plan because I know Judy had literally checked off every activity that was put in that 2005 comprehensive plan. Even if we have an activity that said that we engage in and it's decided that maybe the time isn't right or maybe this isn't the right activity for us to engage in, you learn something from that and at least you followed up on it. And that can inform the way you want to do things in your next comprehensive plan. All right, so these are just a few of our actions for future success for this 2019 comprehensive plan. These are listed right there in that plan summary. You can take a look at that summary either in the plan I'm handing around or when you get home and you want to take a look at the draft plan. We want to work with farmers to preserve priority farms through the Bucks County Ag Preservation Program or Conservation Easement Program. Form a Trails Committee to work with Park and Recreation Committee and the Conservation Committee to refine the trail and greenway network map, provide steps towards constructing a township trail system, establish a regular farmers market, reevaluate village zoning ordinance provisions to ensure standards would produce desired outcomes for the village, Consider development of design guidelines that describe and illustrate design approaches that to provide the type of development the community is looking for in village areas. Review township ordinances for impediments to the construction of dwellings that would cater to seniors. Amend the zoning ordinance to address short-term rentals. Reevaluate the zoning requirements of the planned industrial and planned commercial districts to re-incentivize industrial and commercial uses in development. Assess the best use of the catch basin property for the benefit of township residents. Nominate eligible properties, including the North Penn Railroad and Clymer Avenue Bridge in the Ridge Valley District, for listing on the National Register of Historic Places. And consider non-regulatory historic preservation approaches that would provide homeowners with incentives to preserve their properties, including historic marker programs, tax and fee incentives, and access to funding and technical assistance. And then reevaluate transportation recommendations in the Almont Village Master Plan, develop a water quality and quantity baseline study for this township, consider a scenic viewshed overlay district, preserve important scenic views within the township, continue and implement the township's conservation strategy, preserving 30% of the township's area. So those are the highlights from that list of plan actions. I think they really cover the diversity of the recommendations that are in this comprehensive plan, and hopefully maybe when I'm standing here 10 years from now, that we can say that yes, we went to implement each and every one of those recommendations, and that the township continued its success in developing its land use vision for West Rockhill. Do we have any questions from the board or the audience?
I think you did a pretty good job, Mike.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I attended the meeting you had with the planning commission, so
Yeah.
it all synced up.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well,
That was
I mean,
good, yeah.
we have a lot of very committed people here in the township. They work very hard, and they provide very thoughtful ideas and recommendations, and we try to incorporate all those good ideas into this plan.
Very nice.
So,
Is this plan publicly available?
yeah, there's a draft on the website.
If you go under announcements, you'll have to go to the second page of announcements. We have a long list of announcements. But it's on the second page.
Thank you, Mike, and once again, Bucks County did a good job with us, and we appreciate that. I'd like to take a moment to identify those who were on this committee. Myself was on it, Chris Durstein, the chair of the Planning Commission, John Swardick, representing the community in general, Bob Strobel from Park and Rec, and Alex Ulmer, also on the Planning Commission, and three of them have good, strong technical backgrounds and understanding what's going on, because they're dealing out in that environmental world. So I'd like to thank them for that. I figured out we put in like some, I don't know, a couple hundred hours of work to accomplish what we did. And the real benefit of it is that we had, I think, 24 items on the 2005 plan, which the biggest one was redoing our ordinances. And they were all accomplished in about 2.5, 3 years. And that's the benefit of doing this, planning direction for the community. One of the reasons that this community stays rural is when I came on the board, it was a subject open space. Well, it really didn't have the direction it's in need. And I went around and talked to a lot of people in the community. And the most word I got back was, we want to maintain the open space. We want to keep the rural up. So we started a big stroke in that, in the fact that we got together an aggressive conservation program. And our goal, the strategy which I wrote, was 33% of the acreage of the community. And we have roughly 10,300 acres. So far we've conserved key large pieces to the amount of roughly 2,000 acres. And what that does to control retaining the open space is it prevents contractors or come in, the community, pick out these big spots and fill with houses or townhouses, whatever it be. That's the way you got to keep it open. you don't do that, you're gonna have what you see in Summit Hill Town and closer into the city. So, and this community is very uniquely formed in the trees and the rocks and the rills and hills and creeks and so forth that provides the opportunity to do what we've done so far. And there's still a lot more to do. Mike didn't mention, but at the beginning, we did a survey of all the homes and properties here in the township. And I think there were, what, 2,100 of those, Mike, was the number?
It's 2,100, yeah.
I think there were like 700 or 800 responses. And that survey is, complete survey is located and charted and analyzed in the back of this comprehensive plan. So some of the input some of you may put in, you can see how it impacted or affected the direction of this plan. Because that's the base where we start. And, so, Chris, would you stand? Would you guys stand? Chris? I don't know what Alex here.
John.
John? Bob Stroh. A lot of effort, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a lot of disagreements, but it all worked out to be a really good plan.
Thank you all for
So
your time.
thank you all. Great job again. Now we got to get it done. And that's our job.
Do we need to make a motion to advertise?
Correct.
Also entertained,
Okay, I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
motion second will be entertained for adoption at the February Board of Directors meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for tolerating and listening, and maybe create some interest. I guess, Fred, you would offer if somebody wants to come visit and sit here and read it here, they could do that.
Yes, it will be available here.
Yeah, so you can sit and page through it and so forth. And your property might even be in there, who knows? Okay, confirmed appointments. We have one confirmed appointment tonight, it's Dave Collingwood. And I'm going to ask for confirmed appointments to come to the front of the room, so that here we can clearly hear what.
Don, you can clearly hear me from back here.
Beg pardon?
I'm going to tell you something, you can clearly hear me from back here better than if I stood up there, because if I stand up there and face you, no one back here is going to hear me. And my first question is, can everyone
I
hear me?
guess I'd ask why you disagree with the form that we created.
I would like this, what I'm going to say tonight, I'd like this to be documented in the recorded meeting minutes. My name is David Collingwood, I live at 14 Barn Road in Sellersville. Good evening.
Can everybody hear that?
At the
Yes.
December 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting, confirmed appointment participant mentioned lack of funds for the James House when discussing the high cost to the taxpayers for supervisors' health care and dental insurance. At that meeting, a lot of misinformation was generated by some members of the board, and I want to publicly correct some facts based on information I obtained through right-to-know requests. The old farmhouse across the street, now referred to as the James House, was renovated at taxpayers' expense to become a temporary police station. This included handicap-compliant upgrades to the interior and exterior of the building. The building was vacated in 2011 and has remained empty, unheated, and generally falling into a state of disrepair ever since, 8 years and counting. The basement filled with water, about 6 feet, due to improper monitoring of the sump pump, destroying the heating system. Mold was identified throughout the house, since mitigated, at least temporarily, at taxpayers' expense. Structural integrity and possible termite infestation have also been questioned. Taxpayers' dollars, $9,980, were used in 2016 to hire a contractor to trench around the building for a drainage system. And tax dollars were again used in 2016 for masons to repair a crumbling foundation at a cost of $1,035. Since 2011, I have personally written 4 letters to the township in an attempt to negotiate an agreement between the Board of Supervisors and the West Rockhill Historical Society. We have met individually with each supervisor and have had countless meetings with the township manager. We even requested a meeting with the township solicitor, which was never honored. For years, the Historical Society has offered unlimited unlimited volunteer sweat equity worth thousands of dollars and financial support to rehabilitate the interior and exterior of the entire building, including paint, carpet, tile, a security system, and assuming responsibility for heating and electrical costs. Finally, in March of 2017, almost 2 years ago, we were handed a lease agreement which stipulated that the Historical Society could lease the building for $1 per year, with the township bearing full responsibility for the building and all the major mechanical systems such as high-vac, septic, sand mound, electrical, plumbing, roof. And the township would pay for the purchase and installation of a new furnace. The Historical Society's general membership overwhelmingly approved this written lease agreement. Later in 2017, when mold was discovered in the building, repeated attempts by the township to mitigate the mold at taxpayers' expense by a professional company were eventually successful at another taxpayer's cost of $6,000. In 2018, the Board of Supervisors informed the Historical Society verbally, via the township manager, that they would not honor the written lease agreement originally proposed in 2016. They have now instead offered a verbal take it or leave it proposal that requires the Historical Society to assume full responsibility for all mechanical systems and pay for a new furnace plus the cost of installation. All this expected from a nonprofit organization for a building the Historical Society doesn't even own. A repeated rationale of this Board of Supervisors is that they have no money and will not spend another dime on the James House. All the while, the building continues to deteriorate. After spending $17,000 of taxpayers' money and through negligence destroying a perfectly good heating system, this board in essence wants the Historical Society to bail them out. As a citizen who has paid taxes into the township coffers for 32 years, my question this evening to the board is, what plans do you have to financially maintain the James House, save it, and the thousands of tax dollars already spent, or demolish it?
Well, we could spend a lot of time talking about that, but
Before you go there, I think Greg and I would both contest a number of elements in that timeline.
Yeah.
And I.
Tell me what they are. I'd like to hear what they are.
Okay, I'm just looking, I bring my computer so I can remote access my computer at work. And the first, my file shows that there was never an agreement reached with the Historical Society on the lease of the James Farm because, and this goes to June of 2017, because the single most difficult issue was defining what structural improvements are and what would happen if a structural improvement was so very expensive that it did not make sense for the board to repair or make that structural improvement. However, when I go back, that was not the first round of lease negotiations with the Historical Society. I go back to 2013 for the first draft of the leases between the township and Historical Society. Greg, I don't know if your recollection's different than that, but that's what my file is showing.
The timeframes of it.
Well, the timeframes, that I don't think we can argue with the timeframes because it's I have a draft of the lease on 10/4/13, a draft of the lease on 10/16, a draft of the lease on 12/30, a draft of the lease on 2/14, and then there was a pause, and then we go to the 2017 leases, and there's several drafts then, I would say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 or 15 different drafts during the negotiations between the board and the Historical Society.
Yeah, and furthermore, the township has repaired the roof just recently with roof damage. You have put even more money to the James House for it.
I'd like to respond to that. Copy of the lease I have right here, lease agreement, it states, lease agreement made this blank day of March 2017 by and between West Rockhill Township, second class township, and the West Rockhill Historical Society. This is the lease that the manager gave to us, and we took this to our membership to vote whether we would accept this lease. And this was overwhelmingly approved by the general membership. And the date of this is March 2017. It's the last thing we've ever been given.
Well, I don't know how to address what you've been given or what you haven't been given, but I have the draft dated March 30th, 2017, but I also have a draft dated May 3rd, 2017, May 11th, 2017, May 23rd, 2017, and June 22nd, 2017, which...
You may be correct, but we never saw that. You had other issues?
I don't remember everything you said,
Okay.
but I just...
Well, if it comes down to dollars and cents, I have all the printouts here
Well, and I...
from accounts that when something was paid for, like the excavation, Serve Pro for the mitigation of the mold, for the masons. I have all that information.
Right. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe there was a meeting, and I'm guessing, a meeting of mine in March, and then the mold was discovered, and then we started looking at it again. But you had mentioned that, like, allowing the heating system to fall into disrepair. And I just wanted to note that when Mrs. James went into the nursing home prior to her death, I went into the house and into all the outbuildings on the property. And all of the furnishings and things that she kept and there were several outbuildings if I recall correctly, and they had broken windows. All of the furnishings in those outbuildings were in excellent, pristine condition. And all the furniture inside the house was not. It was, it had mold or things like that, and I won't go into, but I think Sanford Aldifer, you remember Sanford Aldifer, the auctioneer?
I know him.
He went with us because he was looking at doing a sale of the property, and he said, and it surprised me, that if you keep the house heated when nobody's in it, then you're going to destroy the contents because of the humidity level. He said it's not surprising at all that the things that were outside in the outbuildings, even with broken windows, did better because they didn't have the humidity issues.
Look, he's an auctioneer. That's a layman's. What I'm saying is this building over here has a central air and central heating system, and it was put in for the police station. We should take care of the mold.
Oh, I went into
the house.
Mildew is probably a better word for it.
Okay, but listen, I went into the house, got the key from Greg, I went into the house, opened the basement door, and the only thing I could see was the top step, because the basement has 6 feet of water in it. And the reason that happened is because no one over there monitored the sump pump to see if it was working, or if it had failed, which it did, and it didn't have a battery backup. A house with 6 feet of water in it, standing in the middle of winter, of course, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to get mold. But they have refused to replace the heating system, and now they're trying to put it on the Historical Society. We don't have a lease. We haven't signed a lease. I have no idea what the plans are. I've asked the question, what are your how do you financially plan to maintain the house?
Dave, you know as well as I do, that's a major project. A lot of money.
8 years, $17,000.
Well, let me
I'm talking
interrupt.
about that type of project.
Let me interject there for a minute, because that $17,000 that was spent over there, David, was for you in the assumption you were gonna take the house. Yes, it was. And I've had several meetings with you and some companies on regarding helping you. We still don't have a letter of intent. We don't have a letter of what you plan to do with the
We have
building.
nothing from the township offering us
And
anything.
therefore, that's why we are where we are.
We have
The township
nothing from
has
the
spent
township.
money for the Historical Society. You are stating here publicly that the township has not reached out to help you. All of that money that was spent across the street was for the intent of the Historical Society to take that house. And by the way, that money was not budgeted. We took that money out of reserves. These two seated supervisors will verify that, because there's no debate on that issue. This was done, and all of these improvements were done for the Historical Society, who have drugged your feet for over 6 years.
Absolutely not.
Now, what I say we should do is give you a time frame of 60 days or 90 days and come up with a plan, present it to the township. If you decide that you want to take the house, then we move forward. If not, we look to move forward from the township's
My
perspective.
question tonight is, how do you plan to financially maintain that house? This has nothing to do with the Historical Society. How do you plan to financially maintain that house? Are you going to protect the taxpayers' investment, or are you just going to demolish the house?
We don't know that right now, until you make your decision.
We have nothing to make a decision on. We have been made no offer from the township in writing. Nothing.
Haven't we been told that they made a decision?
We've
Well,
had-
how many times?
We've had.
How many times? It depends on who you talk to.
We made a decision on the 2016 lease.
Without getting into that, I think it's probably disingenuous to say the township, you said you just put a roof on it.
We fixed the back roof.
You
And
fixed-
when the basement flooded, it was because the pipes froze during the wintertime and there was no natural drain. The sump pump kept running, but the pipe was frozen to keep it out. And so then it filled up to the thing. We then installed a natural drain so that the water could go out. So if the sump pump fails, there's a natural drain to take the water away. So that issue has been corrected.
Bottom line, we created the Historical Society, and I'm sure Eleanor Gruber is turning in her grave at this point with what's going on. We created that, it was part of this organization, we funded it, we supported it, we used these facilities, still store equipment in these facilities, and the agreement was, initially, the thought was, we'll take it, we'll fix it up. So to do that, to get money, they requested the township to allow them to become a private entity, which we agreed with them to do. And the purpose of that was so that they could go out and raise larger sums of money to be able to do what they wanted to do with the James House. That hasn't happened. They've had things they raise a little bit of money, but it takes a lot of money. And David, you more than anybody ought to know what kind of money it takes to fix up an old house like that. This township cannot afford to fix that up totally. It's not fair to the employee, or the resident. The only way that would ever happen, if the residents say they're going to be willing to fund money to support it. I mean, what else is there to do? Do these people want us to give you the money to fix it up? Have you ever told us what you're going to do to fix it up?
Yes,
No.
I've given
We've
you a
never
list.
seen a plan. We've had 3 or 4 members up here who volunteered. When you get started, we're going to help you.
Don, there's
We-
no way
we've
the
been around this
Historical
for 11
Society
years,
would
David.
take over a house that we don't own and be responsible for all the major mechanical systems. I don't care if you say it's $1 a year, not when we're putting thousands of dollars of sweat equity in the place. And we have not seen anything in writing from the township. And Jay, I disagree with you. I don't care what you say about the changes or repairs you made over there. You're hiding behind that skirt. That was never done for us.
It was.
No,
In
it
fact,
wasn't, because we never had an agreement with you.
No, but you had stated you were gonna take the house, and we've still been waiting for
Yes.
the survey, or
We
for the
wanted the
vote.
house where you would be responsible for all the major systems.
I will point out something to the public here, so that everybody can understand. We entered into a 99-year lease, previous boards, with the YMCA over at the Holiday House Pool, if you're familiar with that location. And because no one paid attention and oversight with the YMCA, the building now that is there is unusable and has been fallen into disrepair because the YMCA didn't upkeep their share of the improvements on it, okay? So that's why we ask for the Historical Society to enter into a 5-year lease so that we can monitor. And we can make sure that you're happy, we're happy. That's where we are with this situation. It's fundamental. So my recommendation is we give a 60-day window.
We cannot do a thing without something in writing from the township.
Do what?
Tell us tell us what your offer is. Put it in writing and put it on the table. We'll take it back to the general membership.
We were told you did already. We were told that the general membership said they were taking the building, right?
No, Rose, that's what they told me.
Yeah, I have not seen the results, but I have been told that.
In writing?
The board is not the
Not
one,
in
the
writing.
board is not the one at blame here, folks. Let's make that clear. We've tried, and we are trying, and we will try, and we will go to bat for the Historical Society when they step up to the plate and sign a lease over there, so that we make sure that the building can be saved.
What are you going to do financially? The township, what are you going to do financially?
I would like to say that the board has financially put money into the James House almost every year with doing different things, whether it's the mold remediation, whether it's the roof, whether it's the foundation drain. You guys have put money in for maintenance to preserve it for long term.
What are you going to do in the future?
What's the word, David? I've heard
The word is
direct from your people, the society.
Don, $90,000. That would have gone a long way to helping that house.
$90,000.
May I ask a question?
But if you really knew the whole story, which I'm not going to relate to you because it's personal and private for those who are being accused. That's a major misrepresentation, and you know it, and the people who are doing it know it. I'm not going to have any more discussion on that. If you want to talk about it privately, I'll talk to you. I'm not going to talk about it in a public meeting. But I've listened to you for 6 months, you and others, making all kind of crazy claims. And it's over.
Let's move on.
I have one question, please.
She's not on the agenda. She's not on the agenda.
I'm allowed to ask a question?
No,
Based on
it's
that
not
question?
on a confirmed
Not unless the
appointment.
board requests it.
Pardon me? Not what?
Unless the
Under
board
confirmed
requests it.
appointments.
He's on the confirmed
it's-
appointment.
Okay, but last month, everyone asked questions after the confirmed appointment, so I thought I would be able to ask a
No,
question.
there were, I didn't think so. I thought there were just a whole lot of people in the
Oh,
confirmed
no, we have
appointment.
video.
What's your,
Okay.
All right, I'll wait, no problem.
okay, let's move on to committee reports. Park and Rec, Mr. Reeves. By the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, then,
That way everyone's getting noticed back. Hope everybody's having a good night. Hope it gets a little bit better. I'm going to try and bring it up a little bit with Park and Rec. I actually, we had a good positive meeting last Thursday night. A lot of good discussion. I want to first of all thank Bob for being the chair for the last how many years. I appreciate all the efforts that you've given us and helped us. I know you'll be sticking around and helping out with Park and Rec, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to point that out because he's been the chair for quite a few years. We were fortunate this year to have two persons interested in chairing the Park and Rec because I believe a lot of people believe it's important. There's a lot of parks, there's a lot of space, a lot of open space, a lot of things we can do. Robbie Fisher and myself, we both were, Robbie wasn't there, I was, set aside so everybody could discuss it. I was nominated or voted in as the chair and Robbie is the vice chair. We're going to work together, we're going to do our best to make the Park and Rec more visible, more public, more front-facing so everybody can enjoy the parks and try and do more events, try and get more people involved. So I thought everybody was here for the Park and Rec. Apparently it's not. So I apologize. We do have open positions, so if you're interested, we do have some open positions. I can just give you a quick rundown. I'll just stop talking then. Suzanne Clark is going to be our new secretary for the year, so I appreciate Suzanne stepping up. Suzanne. I'll try and make it real quick. We got a spring newsletter coming out, so you'll see that pretty soon. We got a couple bullet points that we have on a spring newsletter. We're going to revise, we're going to try and update the Veterans Memorial Plaque. So we're going to try and do our best to get out there so we can have, we're going to update the date of application so we know when they applied. Some of the criteria we're going to change. So we let people know that past or present residents are eligible of West Rockhill Township. Any branch of service, so any of the 5 branches of the service are eligible to be on that plaque. And it's free. It's free and clear. And our intent is to honor the veterans of the township that have lived here, served for our country. We want to honor them, so we want them on that plaque. We want their names on there and their date of service and all that stuff. So we want to, if you know somebody, they've been here, they've been a resident, even 50 years ago, it doesn't matter. They've been a resident, they've been in service, we want them here. We want to honor them. So that's what we want to do. We have some good discussions moving forward as far as getting visibility. We're going to talk to Greg about getting some, some website, more public website information out there to the real world. We have a couple of things coming up. We have a couple of events coming up this year. We have Fishing Derby Saturday, April 20th. Put it on your calendar. Movie night, Saturday, August 24th. September Fest, as always, and I confirmed last night that Percy will not be having their Percy Day on our day, because it's September Fest, that's ours, just for the record. We did have, Maggie presented Healthy Kids running series. We looked at it, she gave us a lot of good information. Unfortunately, it seems like a huge commitment right now, so we're going to investigate a little bit further before we actually look to, maybe take on something of that nature. It's a little bit larger than we intended. We have a couple things going on, but other than that, it was a great meeting. It was 2 hours, a little long. We had a great discussion. I think there was a lot of positive feedback as far as moving forward for the 2019 year for Park and Rec.
Hey, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. You are going to give a little talk about just what you're doing to fix that backstop, or the
Yeah, it's getting next weekend.
next week, that
Yep.
batting cage.
Batting cage,
Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dave. I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second this motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats, Dave.
Thanks.
Yeah. Sounding you a lot of energy there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, commission reports, police. Evening, Ted.
Gentlemen, how are you
Thanks for
today?
pitching for the chief.
Yep. This is the report of the following information list of monthly activities for the Pennridge Regional Police Department for the month of December 2018. Pennridge Regional Police Department responded to 514 calls for service. Of those calls, 239 were in East Rockhill Township and 275 were in West Rockhill Township. The department handled 26 traffic crashes, 7 in East Rockhill, 19 in West Rockhill. 12 were reportable and 14 non-reportable. In regards to criminal activity, Pennridge Regional Police officers responded to 2 Part 1 crimes and 30 Part 2 crimes, totaling 32 crimes. As we always say, Part 1 crimes are known as the index crimes or violent crimes. West Rockhill reported crimes. There was 1 burglary attempted at a residence, 1 theft, 1 corruption of minors, 2 fraud cases of disorderly conduct, 2 criminal mischief cases, 2 trespass cases, a public drunkenness, 1 drug violation, 2 dog law violations, and 4 cases of ordinance violations. East Rockhill had 1 assault, 3 narcotics possessions, 1 fraud case, 1 criminal mischief, 3 harassment, 1 dog law violation, and 4 ordinance violations. Criminal charges filed for December 2018. There was 1 burglary, 1 criminal trespass, 3 simple assaults, 2 harassments, 2 disorderly conducts, 1 public drunkenness, and 1 DUI. Officers conducted 193 traffic enforcement details and 17 traffic details on Old Bethlehem Pike specifically. Officers issued 7 verbal traffic warnings, 23 citations, and 40 written warnings. Officers also conducted 247 business checks. Also, I believe earlier today, Chief Blake included the 2018 MCSAP summary, which is our motor carrier safety. Summary, there were 72 motor carrier inspections completed by Officer Di Giovanni, 41 level 1s, 0 level 2s, and 31 level 3s. Of those 72 motor carrier inspections, there were 77 violations cited. 9 vehicles were placed out of service due to safety violations, which constituted the vehicles were too hazardous for highway use. And 1 driver was placed out of service. In other words, he was removed from his truck and not able to drive. And that concludes the report regarding the December 2018 calls.
Thank you, sir. Sounds like there's energy there in the regional police.
Oh yeah, we've been busy.
A lot of good work. Thanks, Chief, thanks to Tim. All right, I'll make a motion to approve Tim's report as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved to second, all in favor?
Aye.
All agreed. Committee, commission, tax collector. Good evening, Suzanne.
Good evening. Just going to let you know, obviously I haven't collected any money in January. Tax liens were settled the 4th of January down at Bucks County tax lien. So my books have cleared to 0. But I do want to note that I leaned a little less this year than I did last year, so that's a good sign.
Real good.
I
Sounds like
collected
there's energy there.
about 98% of the tax roll.
Yeah,
So
well,
it was a good year. So tax bills are going to be generated for March 1st, county and township tax bills, next round.
good. Keep it coming.
Okay, that's all I got.
Thanks, Suzanne.
I'll make a motion to approve Suzanne's report.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All moved, all in favor?
Aye.
Engineers report, Mr.
Aye.
Maloney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have anything on my report tonight unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
I have none.
No?
I'll move a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion for
I'll
the
second.
report.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Solicitor's report, Ms. Emily.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only item under the solicitor's report this evening is the approval of the resolution granting preliminary approval to the Katz subdivision on Ridge Valley Road. You heard from the Katz family at the last meeting. You reviewed the plan. You directed the preparation of a preliminary approval resolution. That's been done. It's been forwarded to the applicant, who has indicated that they are in agreement with the conditions set forth in the resolution. So if you are inclined to adopt it, you'd be looking at a motion to approve Resolution 2019-3.
I just would like to make a correction on I think it's Kratz.
Did I say Katz?
You said Kratz.
I meant Kratz.
I just wanted to make sure that's
Yeah,
the same plan
sorry.
you were talking about.
Same plan,
Okay.
same plan.
And all the issues are resolved, we agreed to.
And it would be 2000, it would be 4. It's mislabeled on the agenda. The next resolution would be
Oh, it's 4?
It's 4.
And Greg and Steve, are you guys sure that we have good protection relative to the water issues in that area?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2019-04.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, thank you.
Right, I'll pass these
Good
down
job,
for
that was a
your
long haul,
signature.
Nick.
That, I have nothing further under the solicitor's report.
Okay. Mr. Lippincott, you're on.
I'll make a motion when we approve the solicitor's report
Oh,
as
yes.
presented.
I'll second.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will go over the treasurer's report. The general fund has a total of $465,773.24. Highway aid has $80,194.31. Open space, $827,242.95. The park fund, $7,576.37. Equipment fund, $130.94. Highway capital, $126.43. The street light, $31,741.47. The reserve funds, the general fund reserve, $343,136.47. Open space Manderfield, $50,599. Sewage maintenance fund, $170,155.08. The stormwater fund, $5,410.41, and escrow funds $349,361.62. The board also has a copy and list of all the bills.
Okay, you guys have any questions on that?
I don't. No. I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and payment of the bills subject to audit.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next item under the manager's report, we had a request from Percy Regional Authority to extend public sewer down Branch Road to 3 houses. I think Nick Fretz from PRA is here. I don't know if he wants to get up and speak on it. You also have the information in your packets.
Good
evening, guys. I'm Nick Press, Percy Regional Authority. We were requested by a few residents to extend public sewer on Branch Road, roughly 230 feet, to connect at least 2, potentially 3 customers to the public sewer system. One of the residents is here tonight in favor of us extending the service. They're trying to sell their house and are unable to with a failing sewer system. So the plan would be for the authority to extend this on the township road, which was recently paved, I believe, 4 years ago. So we would extend the sewer with the authority personnel doing all the labor and not charging any of the labor costs. So that would roughly cost about $38,000 to extend that about 230 feet, which would be split between the 3 homeowners, with the total cost being roughly $17,000 per house. So we would request that the board entertain a mandatory connection ordinance for those 3 properties along Branch Road, 2 of which have conveyed to us that they would like the service. 1 has not responded back.
Has there been any discussion with the one that didn't respond?
We've reached out to them numerous times and haven't gotten a response back.
In that situation, 2 units on one side.
And 1 on the other. Correct.
Can I recommend that we have our manager reach out to the person that did not respond to you? See what the situation is. You know, I personally hate to make someone go through we don't know what their situation is. You know, it's a lot of money. You were looking at about $16,000 property, right?
Correct.
That's a lot of money for a property owner to shell out if they don't have, or maybe there's a reason for it.
Correct.
I know that you said you reached out, but you haven't gotten a response back.
Correct. That's correct.
So before we move forward,
Totally agree.
our manager should investigate the situation.
Okay.
The other question I have for you, if this were to go through, you would be responsible then to re-overlay the road there in that area, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And the majority of the cost of that $17,000 is the overlay of the street.
The overlay the road.
Yeah, because the authority personnel will be installing the pipe.
Okay.
So the majority of that cost is just basically the overlaying of the street.
Okay.
You comfortable?
Yeah.
So we'll handle it that way. You and Greg will take care of the communications and with the criteria we set up.
Okay.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Thanks for your presentation, Nick.
Yep. Okay, next item on the agenda is old business. Do you gentlemen have any old business that needs to be discussed?
I have 2 items for old business. First, Allentown Road. There's been a lot of discussion about Allentown Road and the bridge, and we had reached out to PennDOT and asked them what they were going to do about the bridge. Chief Blake, after the last meeting, actually reached out to PennDOT again and said, what's your plan for Allentown Road? And he got back this email this week that said the study is complete. That a restriction of trucks over 45 foot in length on Allentown Road from from the Bucks-Lehigh County border down to Ridge Road is approved. So there will be a restriction of trucks on Allentown Road between the northern end where it hits Lehigh and Bucks and down to Ridge Road, no trucks over 45 feet. Signs will be installed as part of a small sign contract. So that's all we've heard.
That's some help.
That is some help.
Big difference.
Yeah. Okay.
Congratulations. Good.
All right. One other thing, at the last meeting, we had discussed cameras so that we could do our own recording and put that recording in archive. So we have a complete set. I know the township uses it. I got a big support from our Regional Police Department to do this. Having talked to the staff, I think there's a little bit more than that, because we do have Judy leaving, which is going to leave just Greg and Sherry here, and they're both in back offices. There's nobody going to be out in the lobby a lot. I think we should also consider two cameras, one for in here and one for out there. That'll give us a complete view of everything. There's other security things I want to talk about in new business, but I know at the last meeting, Don, you said you wanted to think about it some more, so here's the opportunity. I would like to move forward with putting 2 cameras in. The cost would be less than $500 for both. What would happen was the meetings would be recorded, the front lobby would be recorded, that would all be stored on our server downstairs.
I'm not in favor of that. I'm not gonna support that.
Can I ask why?
Yes, because we have people here, citizens that tape our meetings here. We don't need to spend money to put cameras in to tape our
But we
meetings.
cannot rely on the citizens always being
Why
here
not?
and getting a copy.
Well,
the last 2 meetings.
But you have one going right there. You have
I
one
do,
going on,
yeah,
on that.
because we couldn't rely on the others. But I would rather the township did it and put that in archive and have it available for citizens so that they can see what occurred at the meetings. Like I said, I had support from the police on this too.
Yeah, I understand that. I think the perception could be, and I am concerned about this, there's a lot of perception going on, that, so the township presents it, is it possible the township would be altering it? This
What? I'm
way,
sorry.
these are independents, they can do with it what they want, they have the privilege and the right to do that, what do they do with it is their choice.
That's true.
And so, I think that's...
I want an official copy. I want an official copy on our server that every one of you can look at by just clicking on a link on the website. If you can't make it to the meeting, you can look there. I know that I've looked at these other 2 videos, and they're great videos, and sometimes they get 100 hits. And now that, to me, that says we should be doing it ourselves. We should have a complete copy of it, and it should be available for the township folks.
Well, we're going here, 100 years, we haven't had it. If people decide they want to do it, they do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't do it.
Okay, I have checked with other townships.
I haven't said yes or no, Jim.
Okay.
I mean, you had not mentioned the camera out front.
Well, that could be a second.
That aspect of it may be worthwhile, primarily from the protection of our people. So, I want to think about it some more.
Got a long road, Jim.
I know. All right, so there will be no
I
vote
didn't
on
say
that.
no, I said I want to think about it.
Okay, I'm just saying, there'll be no vote on it tonight. That's all I'm saying. Those are my 2 items for old business.
Okay. Anybody else?
I don't have any.
Anything? Public comment?
We have new business.
Oh, I'm sorry, who did?
There's 2 things. I had put in the minutes, I asked Greg to put into the agenda park and rec budgeting. Now that you're our new chair, Dave, in the past, throughout the year, I know that there's items that we've talked about a long time, but then all of a sudden it comes up to us and we're pouring money out of the general fund to fund things. And I would really like to see the park and rec come in by the end of the year telling us what they want for the following year, so that we can put all those items in.
By September.
By September. Okay. So that we can put all those items in, and it's already budgeted, it's approved in the budget.
Okay.
The next year comes along, you do your work, Greg sees that it gets paid. It's so much cleaner that way. Okay? All right. So that was my one item. The second thing is security. I mentioned that Judy will be leaving, and we need to secure this building more, I believe. We don't have, Greg is out on the road a lot. Sherry will be here trying to work in the back and trying to get people in front. I think we need to do a couple things. I think we need to modify, first of all, the front of the lobby. And this is not something this is something I would like to have looked at for the next year. Modify the front of the lobby to make it ADA compatible. That front door is a disaster for anyone that's trying to come through it. I think we need to plan out how we're going to pay to have that door fixed so that you can get a wheelchair, a walker, or 2 people through it at the same time.
The entrance in general.
What's that?
The entrance in general.
The whole entrance, yes. I think we need to have that checked out. We need to have more security out there. If there's only one person in here, I know I've talked to the police department about this, about how we can secure that more so that the person in a back room knows that there's somebody out there and that person can't get any farther. I also know that if somebody's standing at the door that goes into the offices and you walk out from the back office, you can't see, or you hear somebody knocking on that door to enter, but you can't see it, right, Judy?
Well, you could potentially have a person like me sitting there all day, too.
Yes, true.
Feeling not secure.
Right, exactly. And the other thing is that the back door is open because Suzanne's office is back there and people could even walk in through that way. So all of this has to be looked at.
It's not supposed to be open. That door's
Well,
not supposed to be open.
It isn't open. It's locked.
Okay.
It's locked, but somebody could break through that internal door.
Just so the board knows, I've noticed sweating on the glass. The glass is from 1977, and it's never been replaced. I've started to get quotes. I haven't gotten the quotes back, but I noticed the sweating on the window. So, I said, look at the entranceway too. So.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been working on quotes.
Okay. There's been a couple of incidences in other townships within the past year where cameras were helpful, security was helpful, so nothing, thank God, happened. But I really wanted, I'd like to take an effort right now to start through this year so we can budget it for 2020, how we're going to make changes out front. And just to secure the building in general.
I understand that.
And Tim, did you have anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I was talking to the chief about this, and quite frankly, every public building should have some type of camera system.
Yeah.
On the outside, at the entire entrance, everything. One of the things about, a lot of the cameras that you can actually purchase, even, I mean, ours are high impact cameras, so a lot of them are semi-bullet proof too.
Oh.
So not even so much for documentation purposes, let's say a meeting or something like that, evidentiary purposes for prosecutions down the road, for the way we look at it. So, a lot of times a camera like that, it acts as a deterrent to possible offenders or things like that too, just knowing that they're on camera, like they're not getting away with this. So, yeah, obviously, I mean, cameras are the way to go. It's, 2019, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
So that's all I had. I'd just like to get that out so we can start planning that for this year, through the year. That's all I had for.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Now we're ready for public comment. Start back there and go around.
Megan Fleming, Thousand Acre Road. I have a 4-year-old son with Down syndrome. I have a 4-year-old son with Down syndrome, and he has early intervention services through the intermediate unit, and the district has to set up bus transportation for him. The transportation department came out and analyzed the route for my son to be picked up from with a van. When they analyzed the route, they said that they had no visibility, and so they wouldn't be able to pick my son up in a van because they wouldn't be able to see getting out of the driveway. So they told me that I would have to do one of two things, either put a mirror across the street or take out several trees, some of which are not on my property, and they are on my neighbor's property, but both options would be within the right-of-way. I had shared with them that there had been a mirror across the street at one time when I moved into my house. There had been one there. Over time, I guess it fell and broke. And so it would make sense to put one back. They encouraged me to reach out to the township regarding putting up that mirror. So I reached out to Mr. Lippincott regarding putting that mirror up across the street. He told me that the property owner would have to decide whether or not to put that mirror back, and it is Jim Miller's property, so he said that he would reach out to Jim Miller. In the meantime, the transportation department also reached out to Mr. Miller on 2 occasions, and not only did they not allow us to put the mirror back or respond to the district, they took out the tree the mirror actually used to be on. Then I reached out to Mr. Lippincott to let him know that they were not letting me put this, that we hadn't gotten this response. Mr. Lippincott suggested that I maybe move my driveway. So I guess the solution should be that I spend, I don't know, $30,000 to put in a new driveway, which would have to go over top of my underground septic system and to the opposite side of my house that has no doors or garage, and then, I don't know, maybe walk around to the other side. When I got that response, I realized, okay, it's not even worth responding, I might as well just move on. It was also made clear to me that I can buy a sign to deter people, but I would pay for the sign, and the township could install my sign in the right-of-way without a property owner's permission, but apparently I can't buy a mirror and have them install the mirror in the right-of-way without the property owner's permission. The mirror would actually allow a van to take my son out of my driveway and drive him to school. The sign would not give them that ability, and if people are already ignoring the sign, traffic signals with buses, why would they all of a sudden acknowledge a sign? So the school district solved the problem by sending a bus instead, so the bus could pick up my son in front of my house in the road. And that way they wouldn't have to pull in or out of my driveway. The only difference is, since my son is 4, he has to actually get buckled into his seat, which takes time, and people are impatient. And so the first day that my son had to ride the bus, as they were adjusting the buckles, getting him buckled into his seat, a vehicle was waiting behind the bus, started revving the engine because they didn't want to have to wait that long for the bus, and finally flew around the bus while my son was still being buckled and took off. I had no knowledge of who this person was, or what their vehicle looked like, or license plate number, so I had no way of doing anything about it. The police wouldn't have been able to look into it. Fast forward to last week, Mr. Miller is pulling out of his driveway. Well, first, so the bus comes to pick up my son, stops in front of the house, pulls out the stop sign, puts on the red lights. I'm walking towards the bus with my son. Mr. Miller starts to pull towards the end of his driveway, pulls directly behind the bus, turns his car towards the bus as if he's going to follow the bus. I guess gets impatient, decides he doesn't want to wait, turns his wheel in the other direction, and goes off in the other direction. Now, Mr. Miller is making the assumption that no one is coming in the other direction, or if they are, they're following the exact same traffic signals that he's ignoring. If someone was coming from the other direction and ignored those same traffic signals, there would have been an accident, okay?
I would like...
I'm not done. Please let me finish.
Okay.
So, or it's on a hard bend. The person, people can't see going around that bend. The bus is right there. If they're going around that hard bend and they don't see and they go through and you have no visibility where you just pulled out, which by the way is illegal, completely illegal to pull out and ignore bus signals, okay? That vehicle could have hit the bus, or it could have hit the bus, could have hit you because you would have pulled out and they wouldn't have seen you. It's dangerous.
Ms. Clement, I think we understand your story, and everybody gets 2 minutes, and you exceed 2 minutes. But I would suggest we will discuss this, and try to understand the whole picture.
I think I should be able to respond to this immediately since I have cameras all over my house.
It's not what I said. Let me finish. If you want to comment, then let's comment, not in the middle of what somebody's saying. I think that's courteous to do that.
For 2 minutes or so. First of all, I'd like you to show me the letters that the school board sent to us to put up mirrors. We've not heard from the school board. So you show me copies of them.
I never said the school board. I said the
You said they
transportation
contacted
department.
us. Show me how they contacted us. I've never received contact from the school board. Never.
I never said the school board contacted you. That's
Isn't
not
that
I
what
said.
she said earlier?
I said the transportation department.
Okay, transportation, I'm sorry, transportation never contacted me.
You said they contacted you twice. Greg Lippincott said he contacted you, so are you
Greg
saying
Lippincott did, and Greg
contacted you?
Lippincott said and I told Greg it should come through the school district.
And I told Mr. Lippincott
And you know why
to
it has
say
to come
that
through the
you
school
were
district?
contacted
Will you let me
twice.
speak now,
I told
please?
Mr. Lippincott
Will you let me
twice.
speak now, please?
One at a time.
You let me speak, please. Mr. Lippincott told you that the township does not put up mirrors. Therefore, I asked to have it come through the school district. The school district has never sent me anything. They've never contacted me. And if you're going to stand up there and lie about it.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I'm not lying. I have emails where they specifically
Mrs.
told
Vance
me
Clemens, I'm
they
sorry.
contacted you twice. I told Mr.
She won't let
Lippincott
me
I have
speak.
emails that they
Megan,
contacted him. That
please,
did I not tell you that they contacted him twice?
Stop.
Okay, Mrs. Banis Clemens, I have a camera on my thing. I can show you exactly what I did. The police were out there. I think the police officer is right here, actually, who came out to the house. No, it is not, because this is harassment. After the meeting last year, and after what Mrs. Banis Clemens did to my wife in front of the school board, and what is happening tonight, this is harassment.
Jim, I suggest all of you take it outside and figure it out. This is not a forum.
You're going to endanger a bus full of kids.
No one
and you're gonna give-
endangered your child.
You absolutely
Both of them, stop.
I will
If you
gladly
need to have
show anyone the video who wants to see it,
Jim,
and you'll
shut up.
see.
We're gonna have decorum in this room. And that doesn't include the supervisor getting crazy because somebody makes a comment. The comment was right or wrong, I don't know. We gotta learn more about it. Appears to me Mr. Lippincott may be a source to start to look at. So if it's a problem, it's a problem. Everybody has to work together to fix it. It's the way this world turns. There ain't nothing done with this kind of crap going on. Does anyone else have any more comments? That's not on the same subject. Yes, ma'am.
I am the one who's reevaluated the public sewer hookup. I've been...
I'm sorry, can I have your name?
Michelle Naudasher, 274 East Branch Road.
Could you spell your last name?
Naudascher. I purchased the residence June of 2009 under the impression that public sewer was going through. I had documentation of projected projects. It was again revisited in 2014 when the road was going to be repaved. I and one other resident were very interested in this. However, nobody else on the street was. I worked full-time at the time, and I was down in Southampton, could not attend any of the meetings. I emailed numerous times with Nick about how this project was going to happen. Nobody else is interested. I am in the process of selling my home. In order for this to go through, I need this project done as soon as possible. Me and my neighbor are very interested. He has him and his wife and 3 little ones. He tells me that their septic system cannot handle the amount in the people in that home. So either way, however this goes, I'm just hoping that this project can go through as soon as possible. I am aware of the cost. He is aware of the cost, and just trying to get things moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lippincott, are you aware of the condition she's outlined?
Yeah, it's the same as the PRD.
Okay. You need to spend some time bringing us up to date on details. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
David.
Why, thank you. My comment concerns the historic, the building, the James building. I would like to know if this agreement does not go through, that is your decision to make between you and the Historical Society. What will you do with that house and barn? It's open to vandals. It's open to any kind of crime. There's no cameras, there's no security. I think the police, how often do you go through there, Jim? Once a night?
Yeah, usually once a night.
Once a night. So if this agreement does not come to fruition, what do you intend to do with the building and the barn? I think the residents need to understand where you're going with that. this township is run by paralysis through analysis. That's the mechanism. And that barn has been rotting there, that house is rotting there. So what do you, if that does not come to fruition, I hope it does. I hope the Historical Society and the township does, make an agreement. I think it's a very nice house. I would love to see it used. So what do you plan to do as chairman?
I think we
What
said
is the
earlier,
direction? Go ahead.
Number one, we've been back and forth for 6 to 11 years at different levels on this subject.
Okay, that's the analysis and the paralysis. What will you do if this all falls through? What is your plan for that building and that barn?
We don't make instant plans. We don't define that tonight. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. First thing you do, you got to figure out how to get the money to do it. That may be a possibility, it may not be.
Okay, so again, paralysis through analysis. So there's no long-term plan for that building and that barn. So it's let it rot? Is that what you all are saying?
Can I interject?
I will. Oh, thank you. I'd like an answer.
Yes,
Thank you.
because I will give you a little bit of history, and the report is here on record for the folks to see, the township folks to see.
I don't care about the historical society.
Right,
Okay.
the barn was supposed to be torn down 5 years ago.
Okay, so why is
we have a structural engineering report that says the barn could not be saved. What we did, so, and your husband was involved in this, by the way.
Yes, I understand that.
What we did to save the barn for a few folks that were interested in saving the barn, we went and we took some visits to other barns and helped a committee, started a subcommittee of Save the Barn Committee to generate funds. And after numerous meetings, the committee changed their plan of what they wanted to do. Instead of just fixing the barn up, they wanted to create an event center. Well, when they were shown a list of hurdles that would have been accomplished, they decided, oh, well, if all we're going to do is fix up the barn, it's a waste of our time. Now, we were told publicly at a meeting here 2 months ago that the township dismembered that committee. Nobody that I know of dismembered that committee. Did you dismember the committee, Jim? Okay. So, as far as the barn goes, there was a committee that was researching fundraising to save the barn.
Right, agreed.
All along, while we have a structural engineer telling us we should have torn the barn down, which we also spent $10,000 or $11,000 to save the summer beam, just to preserve the barn so that it wouldn't fall apart. Okay? So the township has spent money already with the intent that someone wanted to save the barn, a committee. So you can't decide to spend money on something unless you have a use for it. You know that.
I know, Jay, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if there's no use for these buildings, will the township tear them down? I think it's just, I'm worried about the security issue.
Well, we were
With
hoping not
vagrants
to.
living in there, vandals in there,
We were hoping not to do
drugs
that.
in there.
We were hoping not to tear them down because of the.
There's police going through there once a night. There's 2 buildings there that can be quite a center for misbehavior.
We're aware of that.
I think the police are programmed to go through that whole park area every night for a purpose, 24/7 protection that they're employed for. So,
It's once a night.
beg pardon?
And there's no cameras. It's once at night, and there's no cameras. And it's an open park.
So you're saying they should be there all the time?
I don't care what you do. I'm asking you what you're going to do with the buildings. Either fill it
It's still in
or tear it down.
Did you hear the earlier conversation? It's still in discussion.
Yes, I did. I did.
And
Yes.
Historical Society has an
Okay.
opportunity to come back to us and tell us what they're going to do.
Okay, and one last thing. I really resent my husband, Jim Miller, I'm his wife, not having an opportunity to respond to these very, very damaging, misleading, lying claims.
He responded with lying. He did, he responded.
Oh, we have a police
Stop,
officer
please.
here. Oh my gosh, we have a police
Yeah,
officer.
he wasn't there.
Stop.
He wasn't there, he couldn't see it.
Listen, we're gonna have a public meeting, and I'm gonna be present here. We're gonna keep it orderly, or citations will be issued. Please, okay? We can all speak, we're all adults here, we all take our turn. Everyone understands? Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the echo. Somebody else had some questions. Lady in. Very back of the building.
Hi everyone, my name is Rapika. I'm actually not a resident. I'm from Philadelphia, here on behalf of the Clean Air Council, and we've been working on the Philadelphia Pipeline Project. So there is a compressor station being built in your town. I'm sure most of you are aware of it, and it's negative health impacts. So I just wanted to let you guys know that the regulatory agency overseeing the pipeline project has put out an environmental assessment. So I brought a handout about the environmental assessment and what it does, and basically it's insufficient for actually invalidating negative air impacts that would happen in your town.
We'd be more than happy to take a look at that. The supervisors have instructed the staff to prepare a response to the EA, and any input you'd like to provide, we'll take a look at as part of that response.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make the residents aware that they also have the ability to comment on this too, so I wanted to give them the handout. So we just put together a bunch of talking points, because FERC requires that you address specific things from the environmental assessment, so we've gone through it and picked some things out that you guys can refer to, and obviously we urge township officials to comment on it too, because that makes a huge difference, so we're just trying to get that on the way. So if you have any questions...
Did you say the assessment is insufficient?
Yeah, if you have any questions about this in general, I can talk to you about it after the meeting, but I have handouts now, so if you're interested, like, I can give them to you, or I can come bring them up, like, whatever.
Why don't you bring them up and put them on the table, and people
yeah.
can get them before they leave if they're interested.
Okay. Thank you.
It is.
Thank you. Christine Shelley, Whalen Road, right down the street from, stand, right down the street from where we don't know that they're going to build it yet. I mean, we're still hoping, we're still holding on to our prayer of hope. I have 3 points, 2 questions and a point about that to make tonight. Yes, the EA is out. Yes, it is totally insufficient, filled with half-truths and many lies and many clouds. We need an environmental impact study. The window is still open. Get on FERC's website, register to become an intervener so that your comments will be heard about the EA. Make your comments, follow talking points. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, all the directions for like commenting and everything, it's all in the handout.
Great. So that's the first thing. I heard talk at the beginning of the meeting, we're working on an ordinance. We've been working on an ordinance. We've finished an ordinance. I know that it may not have an impact. I understand that. But after February 3rd, we can't go back. If they stamp it, if they approve it, we can't go back and write that ordinance. Are we going to write an ordinance so that we can at least try, so that we have something to go back to help us should we need it? Do we have an ordinance? Have we been working on one? I would like it part of public record that this is my 3rd request, and that other members of my community have also requested that an ordinance be written. Do we have one?
No, we don't have an official one.
Are we working on one?
When we finish, the public committee is looking at that and what would be the way to accomplish that, that it would be effective. And the intent there is if we come up with that, we will present it to the board, and they will consider whether they want to take that action. So that's where it is right now.
Will it be completed in time before FERC says everything has been?
Well, if we're going to do something, yeah.
Okay.
I know I say this every time, and I know you say how important you think it is to have an ordinance. When you say will it be completed in time, when they filed their application, it was already not completed in time. First of all, we can't enforce ordinances against an agency or an entity proceeding under a FERC project. Second of all, or people that file their applications prior to the adoption of an ordinance are what they call grandfathered. So you seem so passionate about the ordinance from a legal standpoint. I think it's really important to go through the EA with a fine-tooth comb to ask for an EIS, to work real hard on those things. I don't agree with the efficiency of adopting an ordinance at this point.
Okay.
Definitely barn door horse is gone.
I understand what you're saying, but my research, and again, I'm getting caught up. They've had years and years to plan this out, to research it, to set into motion whatever they're doing. All I can do is the research that I'm doing, and my best understanding is that we still should try to put an ordinance in place before they stamp it, before they say go ahead. That is the information that I have. That whether or not it will help us, we don't know. We won't know until we get there. But that if we get there and they say, well, did your township write an ordinance? If we don't have one, then we don't have one.
And
That's
it's very
my understanding.
No, I do understand what, I'm sorry, I do understand what you're saying, because the FERC rules are that they have to try their best to comply with ordinances. So, but if an ordinance is adopted after an application is received and going through the review process, FERC's not going to pay attention to that.
Okay, then let's put that aside. I have one last question. Has the township been approached by Adelphia regarding any variances and special
exceptions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Special exceptions regarding the zoning?
No.
Interesting.
Right, you know.
No. They said that they're not going to come before the township.
I'm sorry, what was
They're
that?
not going to come before the township. We ask them all the time, will you come before our planning commission? Will you
Right.
come before the board of supervisors?
But they
Will you have a public meeting?
They've made no...
And they said, no, they will not. They'll
Okay.
meet with people individually, but they will not have a public meeting.
Okay, but they've made no indication that they will be asking for a special
A
exception?
variance or a special exception, that's relief from the existing
Yes,
zoning ordinance.
yes.
And given that their position has steadfastly been that they are not required to comply with our zoning ordinances, I would be surprised if they were planning on
Okay.
doing a variance or
Okay,
special exception.
I was just curious, I wanted to see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
Shirley Mann, Rich Hill Road. Has the township asked for an environmental impact study on this
Yes,
compressor station?
yes,
You have?
yes.
Has anything come from that? Any response at all?
I recall there was a little report they put out. There wasn't any conclusion of the things they were going to be looking at, but no official.
Yeah, they can do,
Have they done anything?
they've done the EA, but what we would like them to do is an EIS, which is a lot more detailed study and addresses the impacts on the neighboring properties with a lot more detail and specificity. So yes, we have asked for an EIS. Our response to the EA will be to ask for an EIS. We will continue to ask for an EIS. I can't tell you whether that will be successful or not. We're going to try.
Okay, good, thank you. And I do agree with Mr. Duvall. Adelphia is just not a very nice company at all. Recently, the Bucks County Herald newspaper article had last year in review, and it says that we're not the only people that are fighting that Adelphia company. Springfield is also. They wrote a little thing here. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission denies Adelphia's request to throw out Springfield Township's motion to intervene in a proposed pipeline project. FERC's move preserves the township's right to appeal any decisions to the U.S. Court of Appeals. So Adelphia even wants Springfield not to be able to intervene. What kind of a company does that? Not very, very nice.
That's an easy conclusion.
It's terrible. The letter we received January the 10th, I did, and I'm sure a lot of the neighbors did. We're allowed to respond by February 3 at 5 o'clock. So I am going to write a letter, because I don't have a computer, and I'm hoping that this compressor station does not get built. However, I'm going to request that they do, if they get approved, that they go to electric instead of gas-fired compressors. The FERC handbook says on page 20 and 21, if they go to electric, there won't be these pollutants that will affect our lives and the cancers that would come from that. But they want to gas fire it because they're too greedy. They have to have their money, the almighty dollar. It's not right. They should be required to change that to electric and just spend the money to do that so that we can live our lives with a future. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. By the way, our group agrees with that approach, and that's been our push all along. Many conversations we've had is to go to electric. I talked to a gentleman today who's involved in the stages of one that's already operating up in Columbia County, and I talked to them about noise and that type of thing, and they experience very little. But the deal that W wants to do, they got the gas, they don't have to buy that. For electric, they don't have to pay for electric. But it can have, we believe, a sizable effect on the environment.
They're just greedy.
Any more questions? Comments, I'm sorry. Mr. Conley.
David Garland with 14 Bar Road. I just want to make a comment, actually two. I find it interesting that when it comes to the James House and the decisions that have to be made there, and I'm not going to belabor this point, but Mr. Kaiser put it on the Historical Society as they're the fault. They're the problem. And then when it comes to Save the Barn Committee, it was the committee's problem. He's putting it on them. And I want to say about the committee, I was on that committee. Karina Rilling was on that committee, and Jim Miller was on that committee. And when Jim Miller got elected as supervisor, we went out and we came to the board, Karina and I did, with Jason Stonebeck, that we wanted him on the committee with us to save the barn. Because he's really into barns and saving them and having a purpose for them. You guys wouldn't even recognize us. We did go out and we did raise $5,000, which we returned, because we got no support from the board. And as far as the committee coming up with this idea of making it a convention center or a community center and just not saving the barn, that idea came in writing from Don DeBow, not from the committee. Thank you.
Somebody asked, what could you do with it? Suggest that's something we can do with it. And so you do it, good. We'll see what happens in other places, so you gotta go out and get the money. Any more comments? Not, kind of motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion. I second it.
Been moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Thanks very much.